CLC 1 Grammar Screencast. In this screencast, we will be covering nouns in Latin, subject and equational phrases, in plus ablative place phrases, with a quick shot on Roman numerals and numbers. Let's begin. All nouns will follow into families called declension. Declensions 1, 2, 2 neuter, and 3C are your starting points. Declension means decline or fall. Every noun will have an ending change that tells how it's being used in a sentence. These ending changes are called cases. Cases come from the Latin fall, so a declension is how it falls, a case is where it falls in the chart. These are all singular. That means one. Next chapter we'll learn plurals. So when we memorize it, we have these cases to memorize and to get familiar with. Nominative, used for subject phrases. Accusative, used for object phrases and others. Ablative, used for means phrase. Dative, indirect object, and genitive, possessive, how you say who it owns. Now when you memorize it, it's best to chunk. All knowledge can be gained in working memory as a plus or minus 7 plus or minus 3. So let's take this chart of 40 and let's turn it into a nice suitable chunking. As you see in the ablative, you have a long A, long O, and then it ends in an E for the third declension. Third declension is a little odd. It's kind of a catch-all declension. We'll explain that in a bit. While the genitive used for possessive has an AE, long I. Notice your singular ablative and dative, you have a nice block of 4 here in the long O, horto, horto, bello, bello. And of course, for the accusative, it all ends in what? M, silvam, hortum, bellum, consolem. While we look on and see that the neuter rule, the accusative and the nominative is the same. They both end in M. So the whole thing as such goes to, and then you also have a nice block of AE right here. So wa, so wam, so wa, so why, so why. Hortus, hortum, horto, horto, horti. Bellum, bellum, bello, bello, belli. Consol, consolem, console, consoli, consolis. Now, these declensions are useful because all nouns fall into them. Caecilius, by that US, falls the second declension. Pater doesn't have a normal ending, therefore it's third declension nominative. Multella, first declension, ends in A. Mater doesn't end in A, us, or therefore it's third declension. Quintus, nominative, it's going to be a second declension. Filius, second declension. So, Caecilius here, it ends in US. What declension will it follow? Second declension. Now let's talk about how we use the phrases. Phrases, let's start with the simple one, the nominative, which is used for subject phrase. Metella sedit, we've seen it in the passage. Metella sits. Servus laborat, the slave works. Coquus dormit, the cook sleeps. All of these end in the nominative endings. Us. Therefore, they are the subject phrase. The subject does the action. Now, in your verb, you have said it. That's okay. Don't worry about it right now. It just tells us that's a verb. But here we have the nominative, no other signals, subject phrase, Metella sits. Moving forward, you can also use, besides the nominative subject phrase, you can also use the equational phrase. Caecilius est pater. Caecilius is a father. Caecilius est filius. Caecilius is a son. Cerberus est canis. Cerberus is a dog. So when you have that is verb, an equal sign, what's one side of the equal sign has to be on the other side of the equal sign. Nominative subject is, and then you have a nominative equational phrase, clemens est servus. So here we have est. Whenever you see est, look for an equational phrase or a positional location phrase, which we'll talk about in a second. Caecilius is, nominative plus equational, a son. So we have verb, est, all verbs at this stage in Latin end in T. Caecilius, the nominative subject phrase. Pater, the nominative equational phrase. Caecilius is a father. We go to your verb is, tells us to look for an equational. We have a subject. Oh, there's your equational. Matilda is a mother. We have the verb est. We look for quintus as the subject phrase, filius nominative equational phrase, because the subject phrase is already used. So therefore, in this sentence right here, we have caecilius. It's a nominative. Could it be an equational phrase? If you had another nominative, yes. Instead, it's the subject phrase. Caecilius is in the study. Now, prepositional phrase are these little words in this case. It's a preposition. It comes before a noun, but it only takes certain cases. In this case, in takes the ablative, making a place phrase. So, caecilius in tablino est. Caecilius is in the study. And we see here est, subject phrase, place phrase. Est, verb, nominative subject, in plus ablative, place phrase. Roman numeral revisit. Roman numerals are a little different than normal numerals, or what we call Arabic. You have little slashes. 1, 2, 3. Until you get to 5, 5's important because 1 before 5, if the little number is before the big number, it takes away. If it's after, it adds. Now, if you remember your Sesame Street, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, etc., we see the Latin for unus, duo, tres, quator, quinque, sex, septem, octo is an octagon, novem is in November, decem is in December. Kind of makes you wonder how many months the original calendar had in it. That's 1. But if you wanted to say first, you use what's called the cardinal number. It's an adjective form. Primus, secundus, tertius, quartus, quintus, sextus, septimus, octavus, novus, decimus. By the way, a lot of Latin first names were tertius. There's quintus. There's quartus. There's secundus. A lot of Latin names were based on the numbers. What does that tell you about infant mortality? So here's all the Roman numerals you need to know, how you analyze it and how you put it together. So here we have M, which is 1,000, D, which is 500, C, which is 6, which is 100. So it's 1,666. Boom. A little bit of review again. You look for your verb. You look for your subject phrase. It's a third declension noun. It doesn't end in R, us. And then you have the place phrase. So here in this sentence, what do we have? We see an in plus ablative. That must be a place phrase. That's all we need to worry about. Make sure you've highlighted and made your questions of IQity. Any question that comes up in this, make sure you have that written down for class tomorrow. And until then, aloha.